This is the Foxhole Podcast.
I'm extremely disappointed in myself. Today I interviewed a outstanding human being. And in my haste to get the interview started, I failed to select one button on my recording device that would have captured both my video and the video of my guest. So I only ended up catching mine, but I did get the audio of my guest. And so, without further ado, let me introduce you to none other than Loven. Now, many of you may not know her, but when this podcast is done, you will have an appreciation for who she is as a person and athlete. She hails from Scottsdale, Arizona, my home state, and attended the University of Denver as a D1 basketball prospect. She transitioned from high school into college from point guard into shooting guard, and at that she excelled. While at Denver, she broke many school records and still holds them, I believe, to this day. One of which is the most outstanding three-point record I think I've seen. 111 three-pointers in one season. She was ranked in the top 10 three-point shooters all 4 years she attended the University of Denver. After that, she went on to play professional basketball, where she continues to play with two different teams, one in Ireland and the other in Spain. She's currently rehabbing an injury, and we expect to see her back on the court again soon. Now, I'm going to throw up some video here as our interview starts and photos, and I want you to watch as she's talking just what a sniper she is. And as she's talking, and as you're watching, I want you to hear what she relays about how she got to be where she was. You're going to hear things like execution, effort, desire, practice. And unlike today's world's a little bit different, someone who has trainers and trainers and trainers, you're going to hear Lauren say what she did was get outside, get to the gym every day by herself. And she spent hours. I mean, she had people helping her rebound and family members. But it was her dedication and her desire to be the best that she could be. And I'm going to tell you, when you watch her shoot, there's no mistaking that she spent hundreds and hundreds of hours and shot thousands upon thousands of shots. And what you're going to hear her say is, she just didn't go outside and shoot. She went outside and shot game-like shots, put herself in game-like situations, put herself under duress while she was shooting. It's impossible to show up to a game and want to be a good shooter. Being a good shooter happens in the minutes and seconds and hours before games. It happens in the falling sunlight. It happens in the darkest corners of parks and outdoor courts. It happens in the cold. It happens when you're hungry. It happens when you haven't had any water. It happens when you're thirsty and your body aches and your legs are sore and your arms are tired from shooting and shooting and shooting. Success happens long before the game ever begins. Without further ado, please welcome Loven. Lauren, thanks for coming on the Foxhole Podcast. As I was telling you sort of offline, it's a tremendous pleasure for me to have you here for a number of reasons. One, the first being you're an Arizona kid. And I'm going to do a little bit of a background introduction to the audience, but I want you to go into some detail in a second about what you're doing now and how you got there. Just for backgrounders, well, let me pause there. How did you get the name Lauren Loven? I mean, there's nothing that just sounds that sounds like a movie star.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, that's my name. My parents, luckily, they gave me the great name before Loven. My dad's last name obviously is Loven. I get the joke a lot from the movie, Mick Loven. So I hear that one a lot. But yeah, I thank my parents for giving me this name, honestly.
So you went to what school did you go to in Arizona? A high school?
I went to Notre Dame Prep in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Is it actually a prep school for Notre Dame?
No, it's not. It's just a private Catholic school.
Okay.
Here in Scottsdale, yeah.
And you played there, what position?
I was there, point guard, shooting guard, kind of did both. Probably more heavily point guard for my first couple years, and then shooting guard more as I discovered that's kind of where I really, really excelled, was at the shooting guard position.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I played all 4 years there, varsity all 4 years. And I loved it. It was a great experience there.
I want to talk in a little more detail about those differences between those two, point guard and shooting guard, because I think, at least in youth sports, sometimes that gets youth basketball. Those two things get intermixed, and they're two different, distinct things. So while you were going to school, were you looking at colleges? What were you thinking about doing?
Yeah. So my freshman year, I didn't know if I was good enough even to make varsity. So I tried out, luckily proved myself that I was capable of playing at that level. So I made varsity, and it was around my end of my sophomore, beginning of junior year, where I really was like, okay, I think I have a chance here to take it to the next level. And I joined an AAU team here, Arizona Elite, great club team here. Traveled and was lucky enough to get some offers received tons of recruiting calls and letters, things like that, which comes during that high school stage, and was lucky enough to get 4 Division I offers. And that was just when I realized my dream's coming true. The goal was to get that scholarship and just play at that D1 level. I didn't care where, I just wanted that opportunity. Yeah.
That's an amazing opportunity. And that speaks to, I think, the level of play you were at that time. I'm going to come back to high school here in a second, but tell everyone where you played Division I basketball at.
Yeah, I played Division I basketball at the University of Denver in obviously Denver, Colorado.
And you didn't just play basketball there. I mean, you held a lot of records. They set records there. One of which I remember reading was like the most threes in a season at 111.
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, for my freshman year, actually, I broke the Denver league record for my Denver school with 83 made threes that year, my freshman year. And then my junior year was the year I really exploded too. I broke the league record, Summer League record, and the Denver League again with 111 threes made that year.
How many twos did you shoot that year?
Not that many, honestly.
So they're all coming from behind the line.
Yeah.
And then you were also ranked in the top 4 3-point shooters it was the top 10 for 4 years in a row of 3-point shooters.
Correct. Yeah. So each year, actually, I was able to hit that number 1 spot. They fluctuate about every week with, different girls making different threes. But yeah, I was able to hit that number 1 spot all 4 years at some point and stayed in that top 10 ranking all 4 years basically of college. Yeah.
That is impressive. That is really, really impressive. I don't even know if you know how impressive that is.
I just love shooting the threes. That was always like, I just want to keep making them. Yeah.
You can't make them if you don't shoot them.
Exactly.
And so you graduated from, is it Denver University?
Yes, Denver University.
Denver University. What did you major in?
I double majored there in finance and international business.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Double major. That seems like a lot.
It was tough. It was for sure tough, but well worth it.
Sounds like it is. And then what did you do post graduation?
So I graduated 2020. And right when I graduated, coming up to graduation, I knew that my ultimate dream was to play overseas, take it to the next level one more time. And when I graduated, I was reached out, or a lot of agents reached out to me, and I ended up picking one that was the best fit for me. And unfortunately, because of 2020 was the year COVID kind of hit hard, I was lucky enough to go to Ireland. That was my first overseas experience. So I went to Ireland right after graduation and was there for about 4 months. And then,
just to be clear, we're talking when you just didn't go to Ireland to hang out. You went there to play
professional
basketball.
Correct. Yes. So I was there playing the Super League in Waterford, Ireland, which was on the southeast coast of Ireland, on a beautiful, beautiful town, beautiful city. But I was only there for 4 months because the season unfortunately got canceled right when you're about to begin the actual season. So that was kind of tough for me. It was my first experience. But I didn't let that stop me. I decided, I think I can do this again. I want to try again. And I re-signed to a more competitive league in Spain, which was the Liga Femeninos, which is the League 2 there in Spain, which was an absolutely amazing experience. And I was just there for 4 months and took an injury there, unfortunately, that required me to come home now, which is why I'm back in.
ACL injury?
Correct. Yeah. So I tore my ACL.
I thought I saw that. Right leg, left leg?
Right leg.
And where are you at right now in rehab?
I am currently 2 weeks out of surgery right now.
Oh, wow. So, that's brand new.
Yeah.
So what
it is.
Okay. I had ACL surgery about 1.5 years ago. So
oh, wow. Okay.
Cracked my patella, ACL surgery. I know the struggle.
Yeah. Luckily this is my second day off crutches, so I'm already feeling a lot better. But it's been a process for sure. Trying to get that knee bending. That's where I'm struggling right now.
For sure. Can I take you back to high school? Actually, maybe just before high school, middle school. Put yourself in that middle school time period. Were you playing basketball through middle school too?
Yeah. So I was playing just for the school though. My middle school, I was not playing club at the time. But yeah, so just playing middle school basketball.
And then at the time you started playing club basketball, high school AAU time period, what were you just going to regular practices, or were you seeking out trainers? What kind of basketball were you doing sort of on the court organized, and then what were you doing on your own? I'm really curious to know about what you did as a team, and then what initiative you took on your own to start improving. Yeah.
So once I started club, it hit me where I needed to be in order to make it to the next level. I was like, okay, all these girls, they can really play. So I'm going to have to get good at something here. So
it's interesting. Yeah. I'm going to cut you off, but that is such an important point, because I think it happens to a lot of kids, young athletes. They'll show up and play at a club. They've played in their rec leagues or somewhere else, and then all of a sudden it's this eye-opening experience. Like, oh, this is what it's like.
Right.
And so how did you perceive that, and what did you take me through the thought process when that happened?
Yeah. So actually I remember it going to the very first tryout for club basketball, and there was about 70 girls there. And I just remember thinking, wow, did not expect to see 70 girls here right now. And it was just scrimmage game after scrimmage game, trying to prove yourself to make the top team for the club. And I just remember, okay, I need to play my heart out right now, show what I can do. And luckily was able to make the top team for Arizona Elite, started traveling. And I remember these words that my club coach told me that I will never forget. And I believe that is what really inspired me to take it to that next level. Was he said, if you are a girl shooter, you can't just be a good shooter. You need to be a great shooter. If you want to show that these college coaches watching you what you're capable of, you need to stand out and make yourself different than the rest. And so that hit me hard. And I said, because coming from me, I am a shooter. That was my role in the team. How am I going to show that I'm better than the rest? And that's when I just practice, taking hard threes, contested threes off the dribble, switching my game up to not just do catch and shoot threes, but being able to hit shots from all over the court.
And what were you doing to practice that? Were you on your, would you grab a ball and go outside and just think, hey, this is like game-like situation?
Yeah, I was definitely a mix of that. It was a lot of me just on my own doing it backyard in the gym. I didn't really have any personal trainers until college. Until on the summers when I'd go home from college, I'd get personal trainers to keep me in shape for college. Mm-hmm. But it was in high school, it was a lot of just me. It was me, my dad, my mom, my brother rebounding for me just every day. I'd spend hours in that gym just shooting until it became just effortless and I didn't even have to think about it anymore.
So walk me through maybe a routine that you had when you were doing that. Like, hey, I'm going to go shoot. I've got an hour. I'm going to go, I'm going to put up some buckets. What did you have like a set? I start in close and work my way out. I'm going to do, 30 of these, 40 of those. I'm not going to move until I make 10 in a row. I mean, I'm just talking about things that I've done, right?
Right. Yeah. And I definitely do that too. I think every time I stepped on the court, I was in the zone. I was always, taking game shots, making sure that I'm not just here messing around. I'm here getting work done. And so I would for sure start in close, just get warmed up. And I'd set goals for myself. Okay, 10 catch and shoot threes, 10 off the dribble threes, 10 pump fake sidestep threes, and then from the corner, then take it to the wing, do the same series there, all the way 5 sets around and then back. So I would for sure set up, or I would do things like, all right, I have to hit 2 in a row, then go to the next spot. Mm-hmm. If I don't make 2 in a row, got to go back to the beginning, just keeping it, competing with myself, basically, if I was alone, like doing things that would challenge me to just reach that next step.
That's awesome. One of the things that we're learning now with my team is the catch and shoot. And let me just pause, hold that thought for a second. When I go to high school games here and other more advanced, even advanced AAU teams, like high school kids playing AAU, I notice there's a lot of challenges with the catch and shoot. And what I mean with that, there's no fundamental there, right? So mm-hmm. when you start moving up into that later middle school, high school time frame, the athleticism, the kids that are showing up there, they just have tremendous speed. And if you don't have your footwork set, you're not going to get that shot off on a catch and shoot. You can't shuffle your feet, can't be messing around with your feet. You have to have those ready to shoot right away. And so I start coaching kids with the 1-2 step, right? Inside foot, outside foot. As the ball's coming, you're stepping toward the basket. So when it hits your hands are already placed behind the ball, ready to shoot, and you can fire it. And then when they master that, we go to the hop, sort of this catch and hop. And I don't know who put together the highlight video of you from your senior year. That is amazing.
Thank you.
I'm going to take that and use it. There's a lot of just tremendous footwork in that video. And I'm curious how you go about that catch and that, especially that catch and shoot. Like if a ball's coming from the point onto a wing or even down along the baseline, you're ready to shoot it when it hits your hands, right? There's no delay. You don't have to watch the rim. You don't have to set anything up. It's just got to hit your hands and go.
Right. Exactly.
It's almost like you're already in a motion when it hits your hands. I mean, if you talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So like you said, the footwork is huge when it comes to catching and shooting. And for me, in college especially, I had to really work on that more because I had to get a quicker release. Those girls are long, athletic. Like you said, it gets harder and harder the higher up you go. And so for me, it was making sure that I'm turning into the ball before it gets to me. So I'm set and ready to go. My knees are already bent. My shoulders are already facing the basket. I already have everything in balance. I'm balanced. And then all I have to do is just that last shooting motion and quickly, obviously. But it's really all about the shoulders and those feet.
When you say shoulders, you're talking about getting your shoulders pointed, oriented
at
the basket.
Oriented at the basket. Because, I mean, the greater you become at shooting, there's times where you could be off balance and your shoulders could be the other way. It could be like Steph Curry and just make it from anywhere. Right. But
it doesn't start there.
It doesn't start there, right?
Yes.
Right, exactly.
What would you work on drills, or what drills would you suggest to young players to work on to kind of square that away?
I'd say definitely working on shots on the move. I mean, I've learned just through all my playing that it's very, very rare the higher you go up to get wide open catch and shoots. It's more, I'm going to run from the wing to the corner, up and down, maybe do a flare, step inside, step back out. Have your feet constantly moving. It's very, very rare that you're going to get wide open, just standstill shots. It's always either, I'm coming off a screen or curling. that's where I really improved on my abilities, is being able to shoot off the move. Cause that's where I think a lot of players, their skill kind of lacks, is that they can catch and shoot when they're wide open and they're standing still. Anyone can knock that down, but it's taking that next step to really working on, okay, let me do 10 curl shots. Let me do 10 flare shots. Let me mix in, or even getting shots that are off the move where they're bad passes too. I mean, it's very rare to get passes that are perfect. So I work on getting passes that I have to catch with one hand out to the side, or rolling it, or, working on things that are game-like.
Mm-hmm. Right. Game-like shots. You said that earlier. You didn't just go to shoot on your own and just kind of mess around. Like there was a game plan when you went there. And I find the more athletes I talk to, that it's almost like a game when they're there, right? They're constantly challenging themselves. All right, I'm down 2, we're up by 3, and I've got to come off a screen, and Dad's going to pass me the ball as I come, whatever, off a low screen to the 3-point, and I'm catching it in a hop already. And I've got my sister catching the high rebounds and firing it back to my dad so I can get more shots off, right? The more people you have rebounding for you, the more shots you get off. The more, if you don't have the Dr. Dish, you get
right.
shots off. You have the Dr. Dish parent aversion, where you have your family out there helping you, or in some cases siblings, right? They can help you. But I really like what you said there, that it's, I think even in middle school, I find you don't get to camp out and just wait for someone to make a good pass to you, right? Rarely does that happen. Because even when you do that, if you're playing man, the defense hasn't had to work, and they're just going to wait on you to catch the pass and then close out, right? If you're not moving, if you're not in motion, you're not going to get a spot. And when you're in motion, you can find the best spot to shoot for you, right? Here's the open,
right.
Here's the widest space to get to and make that shot. So you said something earlier about transitioning between shooting guard and point guard. In your words, maybe explain what the differences there are, and then why you transitioned from one to the other.
Yeah. So in high school, I was more of a point guard, like I mentioned. And I think that was just because the level of the team, it was required upon me just from having just some natural innate skills to be able to handle the ball. That's where I was started to play at. But I didn't always feel very comfortable, if that makes sense. Like I liked more, receiving the ball already in the half court, handling that ball pressure for me was difficult for sure at the high school level. And a part of me always thought that as a point guard, I had to be the one who brings up the ball. I needed to be the one that created the open shots. I had to do it all. And that's just not the case really as I began to grow in the game, is that the point guard is just someone who has great vision, brings that kind of power and just calmness to a team. That's how I've noticed, is that you look at Chris Paul. I mean, that man is just a magician out there. He is calm, collected, doesn't need to have the ball in his hands all the time to make the team work. And I think that's where I realized that my role, I could switch over to the shooting guard more, because that's where I was more effective. And I think, like you said, like players get stuck in their minds that, oh, this is what a point guard has to do. This is what I am. And they can't really go back and forth or shift. I mean, if I needed to be a point guard in college more, I could do it too. I think players get stuck in this idea of I'm only a point guard, I'm only a shooting guard. Mm-hmm. But really there's ways that you can be effective in both roles. And that's why in college too, I'd say 95% of the time I was at the shooting guard position.
Yeah, I think most shooting guards can handle the ball, right? It's different. It's maybe their secondary role, not their primary role. And same be said for most point guards. Got a pretty good jump shot, right? I think they can play that. But the hang up, I think, for a lot of younger athletes is trying to do both, right? Wanting to be both. And I think kind of what your experience in when you transition from one is an important thing to highlight, because I think young athletes are trying to sort that out for themselves. Like, what am I? Mm-hmm. And you said it's where you felt comfortable.
Right.
Almost like, I mean, I think that's an important thing for a young athlete to do, is just to kind of ask themselves, which one of these is more natural for me? Do I like this more than that? Am I more comfortable, coming off a screen and getting up with the ball? Or am I more comfortable in, oh, you're going to pressure me? Good. I like pressure.
Right. And it's like you said, like where you're more effective on the court as well. Like for me, I like the pressure once I had the ball, on the 3-point line and I can shoot with the hand in my face. Didn't enjoy much getting the ball and getting full court pressure as I'm dribbling up. That wasn't what I liked. I like the pressure when I'm ready to shoot. But so I think it's all those little things that as you grow into the game more, you realize, okay, this is what I like. This is where I'm going to be more effective. This is where my role in the team really lies. For me, it was my shooting ability. So I know that I'd get more shots off coming off screens and, like a Klay Thompson type of player.
Yeah. I think it's hard for a young point guard who wants to be a shooter at the same time will find themselves forcing shots because they've brought the ball up and they feel like if I pass it, I'm not going to get a shot.
They get back. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's this idea of finding who you are. Who are you? Are you the point guard? Are you the, and the same could be said for bigs, right? Like are you are you a low post guy or a high post guy or gal, and finding your rhythm there, what that is. And for anyone listening that's maybe not an athlete or not in sports, this is like a standard operating procedure for any human, right? You just got to find who you are. Like, who are you? And what's the meaning of your life in this particular environment? And we just had to be talking about basketball here. But I think that, your experience and how you relayed that is important to not just young athletes, but it's important to everyone. Because I think certainly in today's world, we can try to do more things than we need to do, right? We just focus on what's important. I was sharing with you before the podcast. I before we started, I missed out on some opportunities as a parent because I was doing stuff for work, and I was a massive failure at that, right? And I was trying to do both, and I couldn't do both good. I had to really just say, what, the most important job I have is being a parent, and refocus there. So young athletes can do the same thing. What's the most important job I have? What's important to me? How do I do this in a good way? Let me ask you some trick questions.
Okay.
Trick questions. What does it take to be a successful basketball player? And if we put them, I'm going to ask you to think about them in categories: mental skills versus physical skills. We'll have like a column, right? We'll have two different columns. Okay. And so I'm going to ask you, what are the things it takes to be a successful athlete? And you could say, I'll give you an example to kind of help you out. You could say, well, it's helpful to be tall, right? Well, that'd be a physical skill. We put that. And one that you can't control. All right. So now I gave you a freebie. What does it take to be a successful basketball player?
For me, going off physical and mental, like you mentioned, being successful is all mental. It is not physical, in my opinion, at all. Yes, you have to be in shape. Yes, you have to, be able to run, jump, all those things, pass, dribble, to be a basketball player. But for me, the mental part of the game is the biggest, and that's what made me so successful as a player. I mean, I'm 5'7", was always told that I couldn't play D1 as a shooter. I wasn't going to be able to shoot over a 6'5" length. But I didn't let that stop me. And I think that's why I was able to be so successful, is that no matter what, I'm not fast. I'm never the strongest. I am just all those areas. I would say I'm probably not the best on the team at. But when I stepped on that court, my mentality was that I am the best shooter on this court, and I'm not going to let anyone tell me otherwise. And I think that's what I was telling you earlier about before the podcast as well, is that confidence is huge in the game of basketball. Coaches, parents, no one can instill that confidence in yourself. It has to come from you, in your work ethic, in your mentality. And that's what has made me so successful, is that I've always believed that no matter what, the shot's going in. Every time I shoot, that shot's going in. If I miss, I don't care. I'm just going to make the next one. And that mentality is huge in the game of basketball, because if you miss a few and you put your head down, that's it for the game. Your performance is just going to sink, whether it's not just shooting, but your defense, everything else that can add to the game will deflate because of your mentality and that confidence level.
Man, so I had this whole thing planned out about putting things into categories, and you just went right to the shortcut and answered them all. You just got them all. But you said something I think that's super, super important there. And it's like, when you fail, we'll call it failure for lack of a better term right now. But when you throw up a shot and it's, say you shoot a 3-pointer and it's an air ball, right? The ability to put that in your rearview mirror is so important. right? And
So
I
important.
think what happens when you're younger and you throw up that air ball and you hear people in the crowd, maybe you don't even hear them. You hear the people in your head saying air ball. And I've seen it happen. I actually had a podcast where I talked about this, where, I'd see kids throw up a 3-pointer and then they airball it and it's just the life went out of them, right? And what we try to do, at least on my team, is redirect that, like, good. Hey, you shot an air ball. Good. Now you know your range and distance, right? You can dial it in a little better.
Exactly.
And I tell kids, I never get to shoot a shot. You're never going to hear from me about it unless it's like, if you're open, shoot it, right?
Right.
And it's a high percentage shot, put it up. If it's within the scope of our offense, do it every time. I say, even if you're outside of those environments and you just dribble down and shoot a 3-pointer and we haven't even looked at our offense and you make it, I ain't saying anything to you.
Yeah.
I'm going to cheer you on. But if you miss it, I might say something. But it's this idea of putting those kind of setbacks, and failure wasn't a good word. So setback is the word I was thinking of. That setback in the rearview mirror and then re-engaging right away. That idea of fake it till you make it. Because if you don't do that, if you slump your shoulders and drop your head, it's over.
Right, exactly.
It's over. So maybe if you can think about times when you've done that, when you've done something and it's kind of been like this, an air ball or something, and how did you, in your mind, just like, okay, I got to get back in a fight?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in high school, I was putting my head down every time I missed, every time I airballed. I'd stand in the corner. I didn't want to touch the ball anymore. And so, in high school, I struggled, at the varsity level as a freshman and sophomore. If I missed a couple shots, I was done. I didn't want to shoot anymore. That was my mentality, was no more.
It was interesting. You said, I didn't even want to touch the ball, because I see that with young people, right? They'll turn the ball over, and then let's say we're getting pressure and they get the ball, and as soon as they touch it, they throw it. Right. No, not looking. I don't want to have this ball because there's pressure coming. So I'm getting rid of it. So they turn it over, and then guess what? And they score, and he's going to get the ball back again in 2 seconds because we're trying to run a press break. And so here it comes again, and they don't want to touch it. So what were you doing in your what you said is just spot on. Like, I didn't even want to touch the ball. Right?
Yeah.
How did you overcome that? Just
with, honestly, off the court, practicing it in my own way is like, okay, if I can't have this mentality playing, I'm not helping the team at all. If I can't touch the ball, why am I even on the court at that point? So it was rerouting my mindset to think, you are good enough. Mistakes are going to happen. I'm not perfect. I'm not going to make every single shot. So whether let's say I go 0 for 10, okay, that's fine. Where else am I going to help the team? With my passing, with my rebounding, with my defense? I need to add value some other way. If I'm not putting in points in, I need to fix it up in some other way. Mm-hmm. And I think in high school, that's where it really hit me that it's okay to miss shots, obviously. And I always had that mentality after, I'd say, my junior year, going all through college. It was like, I don't care anymore. If I miss, I'm going to make the next one. You have to have that mentality that the next one's going in, the next one's going in, because otherwise, there's just, what am I on the court for then if I'm not just trying to at least produce?
I think you said something too that's important that I would like you to maybe illuminate on a little bit more, and that was like, well, I practiced a lot, I think it happens. Your confidence is so important, and if you're not shooting game-like shots on your own, and then you miss a shot, you shoot you airball a 3-pointer or something like that, and if you're done, unless you have in your mind, that's an anomaly, because I shoot enough of these things. I've shot hundreds and hundreds of these, and I make 90% of them. I make 80%, right? If you're not doing that, then the miss is like, it becomes the Grand Canyon of misses, right? But if you're shooting a ton on your own, and you know that miss was an anomaly, then you're like, yeah, that's just that's a little crack. I'm stepping over that. And the next time I get it, it's going in. That mentality. We also, one of the things I've been preaching a lot, I'm curious to hear you comment on this, is like, hey, if you make a mistake, it's all good, right? Just fix it, try to right the wrong. If I turn the ball over, it would like make me physically angry. I mean, I would just get angry and then go try and get it back immediately.
Right.
Sometimes to the extent that I'm fouling someone and then okay, now I've got two. I got to, all right, settle myself down a little bit, but just getting in the fight instead of like staying out of the fight, because ultimately in a team sport, whatever error is made, there's still a battle happening.
Exactly.
You got to get back in a fight, right? The fight is still continuing, whether you are hanging your head or you're in the. So people need you. People are depending on you. So I'm curious if you'd comment a little about that. I made a mistake. I got to get back in it and keep grinding.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, it's huge. It's not a one person team. It's five. And so let's say I go up for a shot, I miss it, or I get a ball turned over from me, and I just put my head down, I pout, start complaining. They go down, they score again. That's hurting. Not just me missing my shot. It's me not giving the effort and getting back. That's what's hurting the team. And so anytime you make a mistake or you miss a shot and you pout and you don't get back, that's where the team is going to like really struggle. Because like I said before, it's all about that effort and that hustle, and showing that by getting back every single time or helping in other ways. That's what makes you a successful all-around player.
And that gets to this idea of like just effort, right? Constant effort. And one of the things that I routinely talk to our athletes about is that you're basically trying out for your team every day, every practice, every day. Because the pouting doesn't just happen in the games. It happens at practice.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Oh, why is he telling me this? Oh,
body language is huge in NBA basketball.
Body language. I love it. I just did some video analysis of our last game, and I had this whole segment of body language, just different body languages. And I tied it with something Coach Mosier said, who coached at Loyola. He's now at Oklahoma. He sent a video to the team recently. I haven't shared that with the video. They've seen clips of it, but they don't know the videos for them yet. So by the time they see this, they'll probably have seen the video. But he talks about in that video how he recruits, and he when people are there trying out, one of the big things he looks at is who's hustling on and off the floor when I sub people in and out.
The little things.
It's
the little things. You'd be surprised. Yeah, college coaches, and you're at a AAU game. I mean, they're looking at, is your head up? Are you running? Are you playing hard? Did you give that high five? Are you talking respectfully to your teammates? It's those little things that college coaches are dreaming for in a player. They want the one that does those little things, that shows that, talking to my teammate, helping them off the floor, those things matter to a team to be successful.
Yeah. Those little details. You can't, even at a timeout, like, whatever, turn the ball over 3 times in a row, coach calls a timeout, and everyone's walking back, or 2 people running back to the timeout, and 2 or 3 people are just heads hung, shoulders slumped. But that gets back to this idea of just maintaining this mindset of can do, constantly can do. And I'm curious if you have any pointers for these young folks on how they can just keep doing that. And when they hear from me, it's like, well, it's real easy. You just do it.
Yeah.
You fake it till you make it, right? There's no magic formula.
Right.
But maybe you have some other pointers other than my very sterile, just do it.
I think what I would say is that you have to take a deep look at yourself and think to yourself, what do I want out of this sport? What do I want to accomplish? What are my lifelong dreams to come with the game of basketball, whatever it is in your life that you're passionate about? And then work for that. It doesn't come easy, as I would like to say, like the high school to college and college to professional. It's not easy, but I knew that's what I wanted. So it was every day going in and just shooting, practicing, watching the game, studying the game, whatever it is, just always being involved in the game, no matter what it was I could do to help improve myself. Mm-hmm. And the mentality, I say your mentality really, really is important. There's going to be bad times. There's going to be struggles. There's going to be times where you think, I don't know if I'm good enough. I don't know if I can make it to the next level, but it's overcoming those negative thoughts and just putting the work in to be like, okay, yes, I can. I've practiced these shots over and over again. I know how good I am. I know where I compare to the rest of competition. And so I think just stay true to yourself and never take a no. Never let someone tell you no, because you always can. You always can overcome. You can always get better and improve in any way. And I think that's really important to know.
One of the things that I'm sure the kids are tired of hearing me say is the last of human freedoms is choice. Like, you have a choice on how you respond to these things, right? Ultimately, you decide. And you can choose to lower your shoulders and walk off that way, but everyone sees it. And if if you have this mentality that you're always trying out, at least fake it until you overcome it. Because ultimately, we know, however you're holding yourself and carrying yourself, the rest of your system will catch up to that, right? Your emotions will catch up to that. But if you carry yourself in this I've been defeated sort of mindset, your system's going to catch up. And then that's it. You're done for the rest of the game. So you just have to stay in the fight, right? And I think the pointers you gave there are just outstanding. In this trick question schema I was going to talk to you about, I had this, this is what I used to do with the triathlon team at the University of Arizona. I would ask them, what does it take to be a successful triathlete? And they would always tell me, like, you got to be a good swimmer, you got to be a good runner, you got to be all these physical skills. And we'd add up all these physical skills in one category. And then someone would say, you're so much smarter than everybody else, though. So you already got there. Someone would say, well, you have to have good mental toughness. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, well, you got to set goals. You got to have a plan. You got to get up early. I'm like, okay, let's go back to the physical skills. What does it take to be, you're saying to be a successful swimmer? What does that mean? Well, you got to practice your swim technique. Like, you got to go shoot baskets. You got to go through all these. Well, what does it take to go shoot baskets? Well, you got to be motivated. Oh, well, now we're getting somewhere. Is that a physical skill or a mental skill? So we start to find over time, as all these physical skills really begin with the foundation of like discipline and toughness. You got to organize yourself and get outside. And now there's so many, I think for our younger folks, there's so many distractions. Like, it's so easy to be comfortable. And I'm playing my video games, right? I'm after school. I know I probably should be shooting, but I got those video games, right? And so I'll shoot after I play a couple video games. And then after it's dark, after it's raining, after it's whatever, right? And you never get there. So it's like prioritizing. What you said was, what do you want from the sport? And what you want is to be good and to be great and to advance, that's the price that you pay.
Exactly. And like you said, it comes down to you as an individual. No one can instill that in you. It comes from the heart. It comes from the love of the game.
Yeah. People can show you, like, you can demonstrate the proper footwork and give drills, but ultimately the individual has to walk through the door. They have to decide to do it, right?
Exactly.
Really, really important pieces of information there for kids, because I learned this lesson the hard way with my oldest son. I was kind of pushing him. Hey, if you want to be great, you got to do this, you got to do this. And he wasn't having any fun, like zero fun. Right. And when I finally asked him, like, what is important to you? I heard something that was different than what I thought he was wanting. Right. And so, even as a parent, I was probably not doing the right thing with him. And I think I tell all my parents that show up at our basketball practice, I'm like, and our games, I'm like, hey, don't be critical. Just, they need a cheerleader. Just cheer for them, because they're getting all the criticism from me. I'm like, as the coach, I'm issuing enough criticism for the entire world, believe me. And it's mostly like constructive, right? And in ways. But as parents, the thing you can do is just listen to your athlete. Like, what do you want from the sport? And sometimes I've definitely had athletes that have come to our team who were there because their parents put them there, right? And then that's a hard thing. And I think the kids aren't really sure either. But if they can start, at least the kids can start asking themselves, and the parents start asking themselves, what is my kid telling me that he or she wants? I think you avoid a lot of pain and heartache there. But for those that want it, that want to be that person, you have to do it, and you have to pay the price. The side note is, we talked about this paying the price a couple of weeks ago. Like, you're going to pay a price no matter what, right? You either pay the price of going outside today, foregoing whatever Minecraft or whatever you have to be playing, getting outside in the light rain or outdoors and working on your shot, working on your footwork, or you're going to pay the price of regret at the end of the game. You're like, man, I just didn't hit any shots, and I wasn't I didn't play like I wanted to. So there's a price. You just decide you want to pay it. One of them is a better price. The one is, the sacrifice of getting outside and doing it versus the regret, that price of regret that comes. Going to read you a couple of words, and you just hit me up with what flows off your frontal lobe.
Okay.
Execute. What does that mean to you?
Execute. That means to me just being able to just play at an effective level. So execute, whether it's executing a play, that takes focus. That's what it comes down to. You can be not a very skilled player, but execute everything perfectly. And that's what's going to help the team run. I think of hustle and execute together too, because those two things go hand in hand, I think very well, is that when you're executing a play, those players that go the extra mile, that are, focused, they're hustling for each play, that's going to help the team run. So I think execution is critical to the team's overall success. That's
no surprise that it's one of our mottos, right? Execute. And the next motto is effort.
Effort.
So what's that? What say you about effort?
Effort, can't play without effort. That's what I would say, is that if you're not giving effort 100% of the time, it shows. For one, it shows when someone is not giving effort, and it matters. It matters to the team. The team can see, like you said, effort and body language go hand in hand too, because the whole team can see when someone's body language is down or their effort is down, and that matters, because then other players are like, oh, well, if she's down, maybe we're not doing well. And so I think without effort, you can't play. There's just no way you can play at your best level if you're not putting in the effort.
What would you say about this in terms of effort? It's like beginning of the second half, and your team has scored like 5 points, and the other opposing team has like 50. What did you say about effort in that?
You're saying if the other team has 50 and we have 5.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say that no matter what, you got to keep playing. I say the game's not over until that last whistle is blown. So it's you just can't ever give up. If the second you give up, I mean, what's the point of playing at that point? So I'm always, every time I'm on the court, I treat it like, it's the last game ever. Always giving that effort 100% of the time, because I'm injured now, and I could say that now, is that you never know when that last game is, or you never know when something's going to go wrong. And so I think don't take the game for granted, because you love it that much. It's hard when it's taken from you like that. So always give effort no matter what.
Yeah. I like to think that it's how you play when you're down like that is more important than how you play when you're up, when you're winning, right? And you almost sometimes see the opposite in youth sports, where when you're up, everyone's excited and people are shooting threes and people run around, and even the guy who maybe doesn't play all the time, he's in the game and he puts up a three, and everyone's hustling and running up and down the court.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a different feeling when all of a sudden you're down. You're definitely not going to win. You've only put up 5 or 6 points in a half, or even maybe longer. I've definitely been to tournaments playing against some AAU teams that are far better than us and it's probably older, and we scored like 3 points, right?
Right.
And it's one of those tournaments where it pays to run up the score, because if you're depending how bad you beat everybody, you might get the bye at the beginning of the next day, right?
Right.
So no one's taking their foot off the gas pedal, and you're getting beat down. I believe me, I appreciate how hard it is to go, but I like to think that it's how you play in those moments that are more important than how excited you are when you're winning, because what's happened in that game is someone's just peeled back your psyche and revealed the deepest, darkest pieces of who you are. And that being able to sort of gather yourself and really still want to be fired up to play is important. There's a lot of lessons in games like that. There's a lot of value in those kinds of games. And I was just curious how you felt about that. As I'm curious about how you feel about this phrase, trust the process.
Trust the process. I love that phrase, actually, because it really is a process. Wherever you are in the stage of your playing career, middle school, high school, college, pro, it is a process to get to the next level, and you do have to trust it because, like I said before, not everything will go as planned. You're going to have your struggles, your obstacles, you're going to have your bad games, your good games. And it's a process to reach the next step. And so it's staying committed to that process, staying dedicated, knowing that there's a bigger plan ahead when you're in the gym at night shooting and you're tired, or you're lifting weights, you're doing sprints and you're like, wow, my body is just hurting. I don't think I can do this anymore. But when you make it to the next step, you get that championship ring, or you're like, okay, this is what it was for. So that sacrifice and just everything that goes into it, there's a bigger picture.
How did you adjust to that idea of adjust the process when you got to new teams? Like you left your high school and went to a college team, and now there's a new system and a new way of doing things, and you got to a pro team and there's a new way of doing things. How do you adjust to that every time? Because honestly, there's been players that have come into, I think, my program, and this is not unique to me. I'm sure it happens everywhere, where someone comes in, they're like, well, this is how we did it over here, and I'm this way. But there's someone kind of trying to get you to just embrace the process. That'll be, it's going to work. Just embrace the process.
Yeah.
The process.
Yeah. And that jump from high school to college, that is a tough transition.
Sure.
So and I would say trust the process is huge when it comes to that, because, you're getting into a D1 level where everything is run different. Defense is different. Offenses are different. Just the whole style of play is completely different. And it's being able to adapt and being open to playing a different role if you have to, doing what it takes in a new team. Let's say, in high school, I may have been the leading scorer and been the one who touches the ball every single time, the main shooter. I mean, my freshman year, lucky enough, I was able to get playing time, but that's not always going to be the case. Sometimes you're going to have to learn from your seniors and learn how they play, how are they successful at the next level. And then going into professional, it was a completely different change again. What I was used to all those 4 years at university changed, as well as a language change. Luckily, I speak Spanish, but it's completely different playing in a whole other country. And so it's being willing to change and adapt to that team's process and their team's play style. I think that's huge, because if you stick to what you're used to, you're never going to grow as a player.
I love that. That's like the difference between this sort of rigid mindset versus this growth mindset where, hey, I'm going to a new place. There's all these new experiences. Coaching styles are different. European style of basketball is different than American style. All these things are different. I'm just going to go there and be open to the process. I'm going to embrace the process. I'm going to trust the process. And just, you end up growing when you do that, right? You learn so many more things versus going in with this rigid mindset. Well, this is how, if someone's going to press, we always break the press this way. This is what works. This is if they're coming against man, we run this offense. This is what works. Instead of, I've learned a lot from watching European basketball.
And like you said, it's different.
They think out of the box differently than traditional, American style basketball is, and they have to operate with different kind of foundational skill sets, right? They don't have there's not years and years and years of basketball acumen in those countries, and so they're operating in a different vacuum, and sometimes more effective in what they're, certainly how they teach it, how they run it. And it's not just isolate and then let that guy take the hole every time, right? It's like there is a plan. And I think that's really relevant to youth basketball, because you don't necessarily have, it's not like you have like that, 0.0% athlete that can just show up and not have any fundamentals and still going to be effective, because they're just, no one can stop them, right?
Right.
That's such a rarity.
Yeah.
It's such a rarity. So there's a lot to learn from. For me, there's been a lot to learn from that style of basketball. I saw a video of you shooting. I think it must have been when you were in Spain. You were out by the 3-point line. People were feeding you the ball. Someone was rebounding, right? Feeding you the ball. You were on one leg.
Oh yeah.
Like a
that
1 foot shot.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're on your left leg, which would be your dominant leg for right-hand shooter. Talk to me about that drill and what you're doing and what the goals are behind that.
Well, honestly, in that video, that was in Spain about a couple of months ago. Then my ACL was torn in my right leg. So that is actually the reason why
I wondered that.
I was shooting on my left leg was because.
But I saw you walking around on it fine. So that I thought, well, maybe it hurts.
Yeah. So it was probably like a couple weeks after I tore it. And I wasn't actually completely sure if it was what was the case with my knee at that point. I knew something was wrong, but then I got the results, it was torn. But I felt fine. But when it was those movements of jumping that I could feel something was wrong. And so I was just shooting off the one leg. But I would do that at times too, because it really helps with your balance and your focus when you're shooting. Is like, that is when you can really tell like a pure shooter as well, because it's difficult to do, but it's fun.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, I've never seen that. That's well, it was impressive anyway, because, so much for me, a shot kind of starts in my toes.
Yeah.
Right. It starts at the foundation and then just like a wave, everything comes up. And so, when you only have one leg to do that, it was rather impressive. How does a shot start for you?
For me, it's in the legs, actually. It is. So like the legs are a crucial part of my shooting routine and my form. Because the strength isn't coming from my arms, it's coming from my legs, and my arms are just doing the motion, the follow through. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'd say it's a lot of just like the balance and the glutes working, like that motion is you're using your legs to get that power up and then just following through. And like with the one leg, my left leg was just really balanced and keeping my form straight as well, because that's hard to do off one leg, and just keeping everything in line. That's really how I shoot.
Okay. Fair. Very fair. What drill, if you're talking about shooting drills, maybe one or two that you would recommend those kids that are hearing this and going like, all right, I'm getting the basketball. As soon as I get done with this, I'm going out to work, because you've motivated them. What kind of things can they work on? Like, we at practice, I give them like, hey, to go home and work on from where game-like situations, from where you're shooting, where the position you play, shoot from those spots, spin the ball to yourself, step inside foot, outside foot, 1, 2, spin the ball to yourself, hop to that, whether you get your body already oriented. But you may have some other things that are helpful to them. So I'm curious about footwork, and I'm curious about hand placement as you catch the ball.
Yeah. So I'd say if I'm recommending any ideas or shooting drills, like I mentioned a bit earlier, is off the move shots. So when you're turning in your shot on the corner three, move your feet, to face towards the basket with your shoulder. So as you're turning, everything is going together as one motion. And then also challenge yourself, I'd say, because, I did so many times of just catch and shoot repetitions, whether it was, 15 feet out or the 3-point line, right on the 3-point line. And once I got really good at those spots, I pushed my range and did shots that were, NBA range, and that most girls in high school and college weren't shooting. But that made me more deadly out there. So they wouldn't expect me to shoot from that range. And so I think that's where I really took my game to the next level, was taking shots that were more difficult. I'd say like my college coaches would give me the green light to really shoot any type of through I wanted, because I worked off the court taking, I'm coming off a screen, step back three, or I'm moving with the ball off the dribble and I'm shooting, fading away a little. I think the fact that I practiced those over and over again, and I proved it to my coaching staff that, hey, these are the shots I can take. I've proven to you guys that this is what I can do. Mm-hmm. And by practicing those hard shots, it made me feel comfortable and confident to take those in the real game situation.
I got to tell you, the highlight video, there's a couple of shots of you, like you're coming off a pass, you've already made 3-pointers. And so you have hard closeouts, shot fake, and then you take it to the basket, and it's a fadeaway. Right? Yeah. Fade away. I'm like, I can't show the kids this because everyone wants to fade away. So I'm like, just please, kids, don't see this particular run, because it's a beautiful shot. It really is a beautiful shot. But to the point that you're making, it doesn't start there. It starts with these foundational skills. The thing I want you to talk about is this idea of extending your range. How do you balance extending your range and still maintaining a shot that is pure in your hands, right? So that you're not flipping. I find as kids start to go out. I do a lot of video analysis, slowing stuff down as I start to push out. That guide hand thumb starts to come into it in practice. So maybe talk us through your mindset of how you go about pushing the range back further and still maintaining good form on your shot.
Yeah, definitely. That's a process as well. I wasn't able to do that at the high school level. I was not, shooting half court shots or anything like that. So it is important that the deeper you take your range and the more you try to elevate your game, that you're not taking it to the point where, okay, my form is changing. Mm-hmm. I'm pushing the ball. I'm just kind of chucking it up there. So just take it slowly, whether it's maybe you're comfortable at that mid-range shot and you're working your way to the three, mm-hmm. keep working it back until you're not even thinking about it. And it's just effortlessly, that rhythm is just down. And then once you make, let's say, a certain amount in a row, or you feel like, okay, I got this down, take it a step back, And so keep working at it, and you'll see the more that you increase that range, your shot will follow with you, and you'll be able to take those deeper shots.
Right. It's this gradual progression of stepping back a little further. Once you've made, you're like, hey, I'm going to shoot this shot at 20 feet and 90% of the time I'm going to make it. Then I go back.
Right. Yeah.
A little bit more, I'll make some more of it. And then I think the challenge becomes when I grab the ball and I run out to 5 feet beyond the 3-point line. I'm like, all right, I'm going to shoot this shot right now. Warming up. I'm warming up, baby.
Yeah.
I got something I wanted to read to you, and get your response. Here it is. This is a quote from you.
Okay.
I learned over the years that you can never take anything for granted, and you have to treat every rep, practice, and game like it's your last. Always believe.
Yeah. And that hits hard, because it's so true. When you're just going through the motions out there and you're not taking it seriously, you realize it more once it's taken away from you. Like high school is 4 years, college is 4 years, pro is, you never know how long your pro career could be. And so I think it's really important that if you're committed to the game of basketball or whatever sport it is, or whatever it is, it doesn't even have to be sports, anything in life, always give it your best, because what's the point then? You just never know when it could be your last time, and you want to enjoy it while you have it. Yeah.
When I read that, I was like, man, this is so appropriate. I was just telling our team a couple of weeks ago that when I walked off the field in high school, we played in the state semifinal game and we lost. When I walked off the field the last time and took the shoulder pads off, it wasn't until years later that I realized I'm never playing football again. I'm never putting on these pads again. Basketball's a little different because I can go play. And I can play with the kids, and they can run me down. But I'm never going to play organized football again. And you just never know. So you have to it's like living your life. You don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, right? You just don't know. So you just have to live every moment, every day, take advantage of every sunrise, every sunset, every hour you have to practice. Because nothing is guaranteed. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. Nothing.
Right. And I think one more thing too about that is that, like you said, I mean, I'd never expected to tear my ACL. Unfortunately, it happened, but it doesn't mean that it's over. And I think that's important to tell younger players too, is that if anything happens, if injuries occur, whatever it is that comes in the way, an obstacle, you can overcome it. Everything can work out the way it's supposed to be. Yeah, there's going to be some things that come and go, but just because I'm injured now too doesn't mean it has to be over. And so always have that mentality that you can overcome it all.
Yeah, I mean, there's in youth sports, a lot of injuries, right? I have a seventh grader on my team who had a serious ACL injury. First day of football practice, ACL, meniscus, a whole bunch of other things. And he's just overcoming that now. But you can look across the landscape of professional sports and the amazing returns of people, right? With dedication, hard work, focus, all the things that got them there are all the things that get them to heal and recover, right?
And I think those, like you said, looking at those people above you, looking at those role models, examples like Derrick Rose or Klay Thompson currently, those injuries happen, and there's going to be things that come their way that you think are just going to mentally just destroy them and they won't be able to come back from it. But you can, and there's so much that they're still playing at an extremely high level. And it's incredible to see that, they've gone through some of the hardest injuries and have been able to stay at their highest level playing.
For sure. I have one last question for you, but before I get to that, is there anything that I haven't asked you that you want to tell young players? Any words of encouragement, anything you want to say? And hey, listen, this isn't a one and done deal. We can always have an epiphany in a couple of weeks, so we can always come back and do another one.
I'd say just always believe in yourself. Never let someone tell you that you're not good enough or you're not tall enough or strong enough or fast enough, because if you love this game, if you have serious passion for it, you can accomplish your dreams, and always chase them. Always chase them. Never stop chasing them, because you'll never know. Like you said, you can't make a shot you don't take. So never be afraid to take that shot.
Mm-hmm. Excellent advice. All right. You ready for this very difficult question?
I'm ready.
This is going to be a tough one. This is a stumper. What's the big deal with the mini M&Ms, and why are they so much better than the OGs?
Ask anyone, they know. Anyone who has had M&Ms knows that the mini M&Ms are they just taste different. They really do. They're really just a great candy that I love. So mini M&Ms greater than any other M&Ms.
All right, I just want to make sure that it wasn't like some secret sauce to shoot better.
No.
Or, they're just good.
They're just good. To me, the mini M&Ms taste better than any other type of M&M.
Lauren, I can't thank you enough. Once again, I think, you being here and talking to youth and talking to even to veterans that are listening to this, it just, all of these things fit perfectly into this notion of mental fortitude and wellness and living your life to the best that you can. And just living with this notion of curiosity, having curiousness in your life and constantly wanting to push forward and be successful. Nothing, very few people ever make it anywhere by just standing at the 3-point line, right?
True.
You have to be moving. A body in motion is really the thing that helps you get where you're going. And when you fall down, get back up and just keep at it. That's
exactly.
key. And you're living proof of that. So thank you for being such an inspiration to everyone. And I can't wait to show your highlight video to everyone, because it is incredible.
Yeah, thank you. No, thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed this. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
This is the Foxhole Podcast.